Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. So Denis Berinchyk, outpoints Anthony Yigit over 12, retains his WBO international title for what it's worth. Might get you a ranking, as I always say, so I suppose they're not worthless. I thought Berinchyk would win this fight, and I thought he'd stop Yigit in the last 4 rounds, somewhere in the last third of the fight. But Yigit, as he's shown in the past, does not lack determination and guts. What he does lack is a little bit of physicality. He's not the most, physically strong of lightweights. And he came into this contest with 27 wins, 10 by stoppage, 3 defeats, all by KO and 1 draw. And those 3 defeats, let's look at those first of all. One of them was only in April of this year, and that was to Kershaw Davis. He got stopped in 9 rounds. Back in 2021, he got stopped in 7 by Rolly Romero, who, considering Romero has at times looked absolutely awful, that's not a great result. And that was for a WBA interim title. And then back in 2018, Ivan Berinchyk of Belarus, no relation to Denis Berinchyk, stopped him in 7 rounds. I think he retired at the end of the 7th round. And that was for the IBF lightweight title. So, he's kind of a gatekeeper, fringe world level. Having said that, the best wins of his career, Yigit, were against Sandor Martin. He beat Joe Hughes, Lenny Dawes, and all 3 of those were EBU title fights. So he is clearly a very good European level fighter and a good gatekeeper at world level. And he was in against Denis Berinchyk. By the way, they actually fought in the 2012 Olympics. But of course, that's, amateur 3-round fight. This is a 12-round professional fight. They're almost different sports. But Berinchyk, 35 years old now, from Ukraine. Big, stocky guy, physically very, very powerful. And this is why I thought he might overwhelm Yigit in the last third of the fight. He did take over, very much so, in the second half of the fight, which is what... I had it 116, 112 for Berinchyk. And I think that was the same as one of the judges. Another guy at 117, 111, and one guy at 115, 113. There were, for the first 6 rounds, this was a competitive fight. Because Yigit, when he's fresh and when he's got some energy, and when he's not slowed down and he doesn't have to actually get down and physical with an opponent, he can, outwork you. He's a southpaw. Berinchyk orthodox. In the first round, actually, Berinchyk came out southpaw, which was a little strange. Then he went back to orthodox in the second round. By the second round, Yigit had blood coming out of his nose, didn't look in good condition, but he was, again, skitting around the ring, firing lots of punches. There's nothing wrong with his output, and he lands. He doesn't land with everything, but he lands enough to make to win rounds. Berinchyk, far more economical with his punches, but very much heavier hands. And he was, I think in the 5th round, there was a head clash, which left a big cut over Yigit's left eye. But the corner handled it pretty well. It was good corner work, I think. It was bleeding at times, so it was a bad cut. But generally speaking, they controlled it for the most part. But Berinchyk, for the first 6 rounds, Berinchyk was kind of just, edging closer, and almost waiting for Yigit to calm down, to sort of slow down, I guess. Because Yigit, lots of nervous energy, lots of movement, skits around the ring, uses the full size of the ring. But as his legs got a little bit more tired, he was obviously getting slower, and Berinchyk was able to... Berinchyk, by the way, he's far better skilled in the fundamentals, which is not to say Yigit doesn't have skills, he does. But Berinchyk, he's one of those, he's one of those Ukrainian fighters who he wants to be sure he's going to land a punch. He wants to be... he will only throw punches with some sort of method behind them, some sort of rhyme and reason. Yigit will fire a lot of don't hit me punches, or range finding punches, or, let's keep him off me punches. And in the second half of the fight, gradually Berinchyk, I think certainly by the 7th round, Berinchyk was looking a little bit more imposing, getting a bit closer, landing some good, solid individual punches. There weren't a great deal of combinations from Berinchyk. The combinations came sort of more more towards the end of the fight. Yeah, middle rounds to late rounds. It's almost like he was just, you know, waiting for Yigit to shoot his bolt, so to speak. But Yigit was still in there, still fighting well, still trying to win. Come the sort of 10th, 11th, 12th, the final quarter of the fight, the so-called championship rounds, certainly the 10th and the 11th, I thought Berinchyk was in control by this point fully. And did he ever look like stopping Yigit? Not really, not really. I expected Yigit to get stopped around about 9-10 rounds, but no, he was still in there. And certainly in the last round, Yigit he was told by his corner, you need a knockout to win. And fair play to him. He came out with the intention of trying to knock Berinchyk out. It wasn't going to happen. But he was standing there swapping punches with the naturally physically stronger guy, with probably the better schooled guy. And he had blood coming down his face, and he wasn't quitting, and he was banging his chest. Come on in, let's have it, you know. And the final bell went, and I don't think there was any doubt that Denis Berinchyk had won this fight. But Yigit, nothing to be ashamed of. Berinchyk, as I said, is 35, whereas Yigit is 31. But the more miles on the clock are definitely with Yigit, no question about that. Maybe if he can drop down to area level, he can pick up the EBU title again. Not the area level, European level, excuse me, and pick up the EBU title. Yeah, I think he's Swedish. He's from Stockholm. It's not a hotbed for fights, but he's not shot. He's not a shot fighter, and he does have that world level gatekeeper role to play. Berinchyk, I've got to be honest, I've never really been that sold on him. Not really. I mean, his last fight before this was last December against Ivan Mendy, and he won the unanimous decision. And the scores were sort of similar to this fight. So he over 12, he's a pretty decent operator, Berinchyk. But he won the European title in December. Apart from that, I'm not really that sold on him. I think he's very beatable. I mean, certainly if you're talking, your Devin Haney's and your Checo Stevensons, and he won't get near him. He just won't get near him. They'll beat him easy. George Kambosos and Berinchyk would be a good fight. I'd like to see that. But I'm not actually sold on this guy at all. I think the jury's still out at world level, at elite level, because the lightweights, even though Haney's moving up, those belts are going to become it's going to become a free-for-all for all those vacated belts. And yeah, can Berinchyk win one? Yeah, he can. I think he'd knock Rolly Romero out, no problem. But then I thought he'd knock out Anthony Yigit, and he didn't. So yeah, the jury's out on Denis Berinchyk. Good fighter, but I don't know whether he's as good as his pedigree might suggest. And he is 35. So let me know what you think of Berinchyk. Let me know what you think of the fight with Yigit. If you saw it, it was on the undercard of Dubois and Usyk. Leave your comments below and I'll answer them. Thank you as always for giving us your time, and thank you very much if you've subscribed. If you could subscribe, if you haven't, hit the subscribe button. Build up Joe Stunner Boxing, and of course like the video. We've got the big one to come, Dubois versus Usyk. It's over in Poland, which is basically a home gig for Usyk, but he deserves it, doesn't he, after all that road running. Anyway, thanks a lot. Bye for now.